to episode number 16 of Leading the Change. This is today our last episode before the summer break. We will be back in September and we tell you a little bit more about it at the end. Today's session is about how the company Twice Commerce is revolutionizing the circular economy. And we have no less than Henry, or Henri, how his French father is calling him, but we stick to Henry, the English version. We have Henry with us, who is the COO of Twice. So thank you very much for joining us today and welcome, Henry.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Just a little bit of a background to Henry. So he really has, and I will just need my paper because it's so impressive, and I don't want to forget anything. So Henry really had a fast-paced career with leadership roles across multiple countries and industries. In his first decade of his career, he spent in management consulting, advising large multinational consumer goods companies on international expansion, growth, marketing, supply chain management, and manufacturing. And this extensive experience paved the way for his transition into leadership roles in tech and growth companies. But really at heart, Henry is a builder. As one of the first employees at a boutique consultancy, he played a crucial role in growing the firm to a 50 people strong company and establishing its presence in the Middle East. And more recently, he returned to his roots in Helsinki to lead Volt's global merchant operations. During his tenure at Volt, the company expanded from a 500-person startup to a 5,000 people strong company, eventually acquired by DoorDash in one of the largest tech acquisitions in Europe. Now, since 2022, Henry has been at the helm of Twice as COO, leveraging his experience and expertise to build a net positive company from the ground up. At Twice, he's leading the platform's global growth and expansion with a vision to accelerate the global transition to a circular economy. By enabling the world to better utilize existing products, Twice is poised to significantly reduce production and emissions, thereby making a substantial positive environmental impact. We're looking ahead. Henry envisions building Twice into a world-class, focused, high-growth company, making a positive impact on both commerce and the environment. So, very glad to have you here, Henry. Just for those that maybe joined us the first time about the format, so we will reserve roughly 10 minutes at the end so that you can ask questions directly to Henry after we have had the discussion with Henry. So let's go straight into it. Catherine, off to you.
Okay, absolutely. So, I mean, your career, how should I say, the hockey stick is really remarkable. Now, can I ask you about what you can tell us about your experience and why you chose to work in sustainability in general?
Sure. I mean, first of all, thank you so much, Hans-Peter, for that introduction. I am not used to hearing people describe me at length in any occasion. Yeah, I think like career-wise, I've been sort of quite fortunate. I've had maybe like three steps to my career. Maybe the first one was like on the educational background. I was always sort of quite into numbers and math, and I went to a field called econometrics, which is basically just economics and math. And it's not really something I use every day in business, but it's maybe like an unusual background for someone who is basically doing business and operations for a living. But I think what I got from there was sort of like an inquisitive nature of looking at numbers, asking questions like, okay, what does this actually mean? Do we have the data? Is it working? Is it not working? And thinking sort of about what drives different KPIs. And that kind of sort of analytical spirit, I think, was quite helpful in also my consulting career, and I would say that I was also quite fortunate in my consulting career because having joined a sort of very small boutique firm and then being able to be very hands-on also in growing that firm, then as a startup really from 5 to 50 people was quite instrumental in being able to then move on to leadership positions in bigger companies. But then again, as you mentioned, like having been with Walt throughout that period of let's say hyper growth from 500 to 5,000 people, and that all happening in 2 years. I mean, COVID helped a lot with there because people moved indoors and started ordering more food, right? But I think after that experience, I was really looking for the next thing for myself. I knew I wanted like a small company where I could have sort of a bigger impact, not just personally, but also hoping to do something maybe slightly more net positive, so something where applying my skills could have a positive effect on the environment, the climate, sustainability, and all of that, while still working in tech. So I was doing a lot of work looking for companies that were sort of contributing positively, but still being sort of very growth-minded and ambitious. And then I was lucky enough to find Twice, which I joined a couple of years back, and been sort of running that company as a COO since then.
Merci.
Great. So I think I like what you said, net positive and making a positive impact. So that brings me to Twice. So for those amongst us that don't know what Twice is doing, can you explain what you guys are doing, and more especially or more deeply how Twice is supporting the circular economy through its I would call it unique platform?
For sure. So I mean, I think it's usually helpful to take a step back, because when people say circular economy, you hear a lot of talk about like supply chain or product design, and it's very, it's a large butterfly diagram. We're very much focusing on the business model part of the circular economy, which I think is a big challenge on its own. So when we talk to like CEOs of large companies, going in and starting a conversation about, hey, maybe you should do a circular business model, maybe you should do resale, maybe you should do rentals, maybe you should do a buyback program. That already on its own is a sizable endeavor for any large business. Mm-hmm. It's basically a fundamental change to the entire business model. So that is a big problem on its own. It's what we're focusing on, not so much the production side of the business. And then to sort of come back to your question and explain sort of what Twice and Twice Commerce does. Basically, if you look at the circular economy today, I think the OECD puts it at like 7% of durable goods is circular and like 93% is linear, something like this. So we have a long stretch to still move up the curve. And what we see happening is that, okay, there's all kinds of business models you could do. You could do rentals, you could do subscriptions, you could do resales. But really the market today is resales, like rentals and subscriptions. The demand is not yet there. I tend to think, as sort of, maybe it's the economics background, I tend to think in terms of supply and demand. So there's not enough demand yet to rent a t-shirt or to rent furniture. There is demand to rent cars, but that's sort of a business that's been existed forever. However, where you do see the circular economy materializing when it comes to business models today is really resales. So our thesis is sort of that we're going to transition as commerce from first resales, then to these more complicated business models where stuff has to come back several times to the merchant. And then one final double click. So if you look at where is resales really happening at the moment, there's a lot of courage and a lot of sort of bold endeavors happening with large brands. So you have the likes of Patagonia or even like Nike and Adidas who are doing resales, but then they have a supply problem, not so much a demand problem. So everything that they could possibly want to sell that is sort of certified pre-owned secondhand does get sold. The problem is the supply. Like, it's very easy to call the factory and order 1,000 sneakers. It's very difficult to find 1,000 secondhand sneakers to sell to the market. So resales has a supply problem. Now, what we're doing as Twice Commerce is really twofold. So we have two product tracks. We have something called Twice Market, which is like an AI-driven, hyper-local, like peer-to-peer resales marketplace. Basically, you can take a photo of anything you own, and it creates a sales listing and sells it to your community, and then tries to find a buyer for it. And in parallel, we have our business proposition, Twice Commerce. And with Twice Commerce, basically, if you're a large brand, you can just do bulk buyback, for example. So you can look for your items that people are selling on the Twice marketplace, and you can try and buy them back in bulk. And we also facilitate all kinds of offline and online commerce for circular business models. So for circular business models, things are much more complicated than in linear. You can't just have a balance of 100 items that you sell. You have actually 100 unique items with unique wear and tear, unique conditions. And the way you make money as a company and the way you sort of optimize for profit is by having a very keen understanding of the unique wear and tear of each individual item, so that you can optimize the maintenance flows and the life cycle profits of each individual item. So that's how we work basically across the spectrum, from very small consumer businesses to very large.
I love the way that you framed it, that it can cause quite a lot of headaches for companies, established companies, to go from a linear business model to a circular one. Because, I mean, there is a complexity in also going from one single buyer to multiple buyers, and to still have the control over the return flows and then how you process it. And I like the fact also that you basically looked for the Twice market, the two-tier marketplace, but that you're also taking care and helping incumbents and large brands to use your platform to circulate and to basically to do reverse logistics and to put everything how is it called again in reverse logistics? It is the I forgot now the term, but it is about really making sure that the brands can be sold again to second or 2+ clients forward, and that brings me to the platform features, because you can only do that with running a platform. What are the main features of Twice Commerce platform that make it different from a usual online store?
Sure. So I think, well, first of all, we have sort of like the consumer product, which is like a peer-to-peer marketplace with AI on top of it that makes it super easy to list stuff. And then we have the B2B, the commerce platform. And there, really, I think the fundamental difference is the one that we discussed between linear and circular. So we have the ability to track unique individual items. So this pair of sneakers is a separate item from this pair of sneakers because they have unique wear and tear. So that is sort of the building block for everything. So then we do order management, be it online and offline. We do the whole inventory management. We integrate with any kind of sort of return logistics providers you need to, in order to facilitate that circular flow. But it all comes down to having that keen understanding of what the unique product is and what is its life cycle, because then you're able to optimize for the maintenance, and you know when you need to sort of recycle the product at the end of its life cycle.
But how do you help businesses handle the buyback, the resale, and the renting of products of their own brands? Because this is often where it requires a mindset shift.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think really we are like a commerce platform. We're software, we're not like hardware. So we try and make it super easy for any business to start a circular business model. So basically, you can just upload your product catalog, upload your inventory. We give you like an online store. You can put it on your website, or you can use our own URL. And basically, it's plug and play, and you're ready to roll. And if you have an online staff, you can You can process online orders, you can accept payments, everything you want. If you have brick and mortar store locations, it's compatible there as well. So you can process your orders both online and offline. That's the gist of it. And then sort of to come back to maybe your point on how do you start a business model and how do you change something so completely? So I think what I usually say when we talk to large brands and large companies is, start small. Like no one at the moment in the market is 100% circular, like literally no one. And the best companies are doing low single-digit percentages of circular revenue. So it doesn't make sense for a company to invest, millions of dollars in a large software project. It's much easier to start with a platform that is sort of plug and play. You already have a lot to learn in terms of operations. So like, okay, how do I handle the return? Who is my logistics partner who takes back the product? How do I integrate with that partner, etc. But most of the time we find that if you take that mindset of, okay, we'll start light with the pilot, we'll take maybe one store, we'll take one product line, we'll use the existing 3PL partner we have, we'll strike a deal with them so they take back the stuff and maintain it and send it back to us. If you take that sort of kind of like startup mindset of starting light, it's actually nothing is very easy, but it's quite easy to get started. And then importantly, you start collecting data. So you see how customers behave, what customers like, and then you can actually continue to grow and develop your selection, your assortment according to what those customers are looking for.
This is an aside question, but it begs a reply right now. Do you help your clients, large clients, to with the implementation so that they don't feel too lost?
Sure. So everything that is software related, yes.
Okay.
Basically, that means everything you need to get up and running so the customers can find you, be it online and offline, and so that you can run the business side of things. Okay. And then we have, but also our large customers tend to have already partners who can handle, the repair, maintenance. If you're talking apparel, then it's usually laundry services to take care of the items.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think what I find quite smart, and when you talked about and said, okay, if companies come and say, or when you say you advise companies how to start, this idea of, start small, pilot, learn, understand your operations, use existing partners. Don't look, for sure you need to look out, but then grow it and collect data and then grow based on the needs that are there from consumers. And I think, and your example of don't overinvest at the start in IT, in software. You can do it gradually. I think that's nice, and I like that. And that brings me to the small to big, because let's talk about business and environmental impact. So you said you start small, you grow bigger, and then how do you, in this growing bigger, how does Twice balance the commercial success that will come with it, hopefully, with the environmental sustainability and the impact on the environment? And to build on that, can you share any examples of businesses or companies that have successfully integrated your platform into their operations, and what impact it had then finally on their goals, on their sustainability goals?
Sure. Absolutely. So maybe to answer the first part of your question, I think that's a big part of why I work at this company, is that I'm quite excited about not just the fact that we're net positive, but the fact that as we grow as a business, our net positive impact grows as well. The way we measure that is basically through like carbon handprint. So we're software, right? Our carbon footprint is basically just, the occasional business travel and the heating of the office. It's not a lot. But then our carbon handprint is sort of like what kind of carbon reduction we can enable through our software platform. And the way we enable it is basically by replacing some linear transactions with circular transactions. So that means that fewer items get manufactured in the world. That's the sort of the logic we go by. So the more customers we onboard, the more customers we help, the more circular transition we facilitate. Then to your question, so we have, especially in Europe, we have several large customers. I think sort of the industries are quite interesting. So there's like Decathlon, which is a French chain. They use us in some of their European markets, basically to do rentals of outdoor and sporting equipment. So if you think about the category of outdoor sporting equipment, it's easy to see why that would be sort of one of the first categories to undergo like a circular transition. Many people own tents, but you actually use a tent very rarely. So there's probably no point in owning a tent. I'm sure we've all seen pictures in like social media of like festivals in the UK and all the tents that get left behind. Right. So that's a point specifically that Decathlon using our software is tackling. So for example, tent rentals, you can walk into any store, you can rent a tent for the weekend when you're going to a festival and you just drop it back off and you return it. That's one. Then we have the likes of there's a chain called Bauhaus in Europe, which is like DIY. So again, you know, home repair, the occasional home repair, you don't need all the equipment. You don't need to own a sandblaster usually. You can rent it for the weekend when you're doing that renovation. So these tend to be sort of the first sectors that are moving towards circular. And then you have the likes of occasional fashion and all of that. But slowly we start seeing new industries coming in. So there's like maternity and babies and baby equipment, which is also quite logical when you think about it. Furniture is slowly picking up. So it's interesting to see these new industries and new sectors emerging.
That is, it is great to see that everyone tries, at least, you know, and sees what is the impact, what is the results, and I liked also when you said earlier, I mean, no one runs basically circular 100%. So it's about trying, and we are all in a journey of learning and finding out from our experiences, from the feedback, how we can get better. And we see that also in the evolution of the business models and also with regard to sustainability and circularity, where we can become better. Now, for me, it is about overcoming challenges. What are the common problems that you see that business encounters when they switch to a circular model, commerce model, and how do you help them?
Sure. I think like I hope I don't sound like an annoying startup guy when I give you this answer, but I think maybe looking at sort of the big companies that you potentially have as listeners of your podcast as well is there tends to be maybe like an overemphasis on strategic planning and operating model design and, you know, building comprehensive business cases, when the reality is, you know, we don't know the specific details of what's going to happen and sort of what the demand is, how the demand is going to emerge. So, and you can do that. It's very lucrative for consultants, but it's much more interesting to actually define a small scale pilot and get started with one store. Or if you're not comfortable launching like a resale program in a store, a rental program in a store, start even smaller. Think about, okay, what is my product catalog? Can a customer get this item repaired if they need to? This one single item, how can they get that repaired? And if they can't, maybe facilitate that first. Maybe make sure that your products are repairable. And then look at, okay, if they're repairable, could I actually take them back myself? Could I sell them again?
Right.
So sort of baby steps, and maybe fast baby steps are what I would encourage.
Yes, it's almost like running with the 7 R's always with you and asking yourself in each step of the process, what can you refurbish? What can you repair? What can you? It's a constant thinking and making sure. Yeah. Oh, okay. We come slowly but surely towards the end. Hans-Peter, you have the last question.
Yes. Let's take one last question. I think from the baby steps, but what you said before is you said don't overemphasize, don't do the business cases because we don't know what the demand is. So, and the demand brings me to my next question. Demand is consumers. So how would you, or how can you build consumer engagement and how can businesses is there any way that businesses can use Twice Commerce to better engage and better understand their consumers, and even in that would be the best to foster and create a community around sustainability and circular economy? You mentioned Decathlon. Maybe there is something that you can share with us.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we have Twice Market, which is our entire consumer product. So at heart, it's basically like a hyper-local peer-to-peer platform. So anyone can sell anything to anyone in their local community. But at a large scale, it's hundreds and eventually we hope thousands of small resale communities. And now the interesting thing is that then we are aggregating all of that supply. So currently the problem is, if you look at something like the US, is there's a lot of unused items. There's like the estimated is like $600 billion worth of goods that people don't use. That's just lying in people's home or in people's second or third storage spaces. So just making all of that inventory accessible is a big. And then what brands can do is you can buy that back, or you can have your own marketplace. So you could have a Twice marketplace specifically for your brand, and you could showcase items that people are selling on Twice Market for your brand, and you could host that as a white label solution. So then automatically you have basically a resale proposition for your customers as well.
Basically, you are reinventing the flywheel or trying to see where can you create flywheels within the platform, flywheels in the flywheels, which leads me to one comment. Do you aim to become the sustainable Amazon?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say maybe the sustainable Shopify, or like a combination of Shopify and Craigslist. Yes. is sort of what we're looking for.
Excellent.
It's a good vision to have. I think I don't see any questions from the audience.
Me neither. Maybe we should say that this is, or remind people, everyone, even if you said it at the very beginning, this is our last webinar before now the summer break. And in September we have something new in mind, or we want to try it out, which will be a virtual panel discussion on fashion and circular economy. Hans-Peter and I, we are fully embracing the power, or to unleash the power of circularity. Hans-Peter then will be one of the panelists. I will be moderating with someone else, and we will keep you informed about the logistics and how it would look like. Just mark already, if you want, the 27th of September. We don't know yet exactly the time, but for you to know. I mean, Henry, it was absolutely a pleasure having you with us, and I leave the last word to Hans-Peter.
Yeah, I think I can only build on what Katrine said. It was really lovely, and I think it was also very stimulating having you. And I think Twice, as you said, the vision that you have to become the sustainable Shopify, I wish you good luck. And and let's thrive, and let's bring more brands and let's boost resale and repair. And I think the models that are still there, I think you have some good examples. So thank you for that, and I wish all of us a good summer break. Thank you. See you back in September.
See you.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.